Hi, this is Paul Hunt. I'm an Office Server and Services MVP, and I just wanted to take a departure from my usual blog-based route, and I thought I'd try showing an example using video for once. Basically, Microsoft in the last couple of weeks have released Azure AD Group Based licensing for Office 365. And I have to say I'm very impressed with it. I think it's very polished already, so I think we'll see this moving from preview very, very soon. So as I said, Microsoft have released this into preview. So what does that exactly mean? Well, currently during preview, it's available to Azure AD Basic, and that gives you on-premises security groups and cloud groups, and also to premium P1 and P2 subscriptions, which basically adds dynamic groups to that. So pretty much any groups we can create in Azure AD, we can apply a licensing template to. And what that basically means is we can apply licenses for any of these services that allow individual sort of user-based licensing. What's really nice about it is this license processing is automatic. So whereas currently you have to go into Office 365, you have to choose your user, you have to apply the license, then you choose which individual plan they want to have. A lot of companies are doing this through PowerShell, and again there's a lot of setup involved there in getting the PowerShell template just right. Now what we can do is we can apply a license template to a group, and as a user is added or removed from that group, then the license is applied or removed. And what's nice is these licenses are additive. So if a user is a member of a number of groups and each group has a different license template, then the resultant license that they receive is a sum of all those templates. So we can quite easily have a base E3 license, for instance, that doesn't allow Exchange, Yammer or Sway, and then we can add those additional licenses on using separate groups. And if for some reason licenses can't be assigned, for instance you've run out of licenses or you've got conflicting options, for instance trying to assign an E1 and an E3 to the same user, then this will show up in the portal. So rather than just keep talking about it, let's have a quick look into Azure Group Based Licensing directly and see what that looks like both in the portal and in Office 365 itself. Okay, so for the purposes of demonstrating this, I've got an Active Directory box that's running in Azure, and as you can see there's a couple of groups already set up. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new group, we're going to synchronize that across to Azure AD, and then we're going to go and configure the licensing for that group. So let's do that now. So a new group, and just keep the naming convention the same as my previous one. I'm going to have Office 365. So you can see I've created already the No Yammer, Sway and Exchange group. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do Exchange, and it's a global security group, and we'll say OK, and we're going to add a user to that. So just bring that back into the view, and we're going to add my colleague Kazim. Now to make that available in Azure AD we need to run a sync through AAD Connect, so I'm just going to run a Delta sync now. And while that's going, we'll switch across to the Office 365 portal. So in the Office 365 portal we can see Kazim here, and we can see that he has already got a license. So if we edit this, we can see the product that has been assigned to him. So we can see Enterprise E3. If we expand that now, so we can see that he doesn't have Sway, he doesn't have Yammer, and he doesn't have Exchange Online, and that's because he's a member of that other group. So if I switch back to, I think, and we look in the No Yammer, Exchange and Sway, and we can see Kazim is a member of this group. So he's getting everything E3, but he's not getting Yammer, Sway and Exchange. So once we make this change to the Exchange group, he should start getting that license. So we'll be coming back to this, but for now, let's flip across to the Azure portal. So once you're logged into the Azure portal, if you go to Azure Active Directory, and this is the new experience, so this is due to go general availability I believe in about the next 60 days. So certainly Microsoft are really pushing you to start using this new portal more and more for your production work, so they can iron out the last few bugs and that. I must admit I find this new portal now is a lot easier to work with. Now I'm used to it, so I do enjoy it. Anyway, if we go down to licenses in the left hand navigation, and we can see our products. So we're going to go to manage all products on the left hand side, and here we can see basically the 3 subscriptions that exist in my Office 365 tenancy. So obviously we're interested in the E3 subscriptions, and it's telling me how many I've assigned, how many are available. If we dig into this now, we can see licensed users and licensed groups. Now this is interesting. This is where the licensing starts to really show, and we can see we have direct and inherited. So what we're really interested in is direct assigned licenses are basically those licenses that you've applied through the portal, either through the Office 365 portal or directly to a user through this admin portal in Azure AD, or if you've done it through PowerShell using PowerShell templates. The inherited licenses are basically where they inherit these from a particular group. So you can see the group name just appears. So if I go down to Kazim here, we can see that Kazim inherits from Office, and if I just scroll that to the right, oh, it's going to cut it off, but it basically says Office 365, no Yammer. So that's great. So if we went too far, then go to licensed groups. So we can see the groups that we've picked up, and we can see that I've got Office 365 full E3 and Office 365 no Yammer, Sway and Exchange. And if you see the enabled services, you can see that full E3 is 13 of 13, and the no Yammer, Sway and Exchange is 10 of 13. So what we're going to do now is we're going to basically create a new one based on that group. So if we do a search for our Office group, just type in the word Office. Oh, sorry, I'm searching in the wrong box. Easy mistake. Click on Assign. So when you click on Assign, you get to this screen, and we click on Configure Required Settings. And this is where we basically pick the groups. And now we type the Office name. And this is where it shows the synchronized group. So you can see the Office 365 Exchange group, which is the one that we just synced previously. So we'll select that one. And then we'll click on Assignment Options. And this is where we can choose what we want to turn on. So all that we're interested in this one is the Exchange. So we're going to turn off everything else. And click OK. So the only license that this one is going to apply is going to be Exchange. So when it appears in this screen in a minute, we may need to refresh. Just click out and back in again. There we go. So the changes are currently processing, so we're not going to rush just yet over to the portal. But what's going to happen now in the background is the group membership will be evaluated and licenses will be applied for those users. And I must admit, in the testing that I've done, I've seen this to be fairly quick. If we add a new user and we synchronize them through AAD Connect, then I'm seeing those licenses being applied very, very quickly. So it'll be interesting to see how this scales over time. Anyway, if we go back to our licensed users, we'll have a look and see if there's any change to Kazim yet. And yeah, we can see Kazim inherited Office 365 Exchange, and there we go. If I hover over it, we see more detail. So that's brilliant. So if we go back to our Office Admin Center now, and let's close and just refresh Kazim again, and go back to Edit Product Licenses, and expand the E3. You can see we don't have Sway and Yammer, but we do now have Exchange Online Plan 2. So that's excellent. That's done exactly what we expected to see. Okay, so we've seen what it looks like when we apply licenses. And if we go in and were to take that license away again, that would be applied very quickly as well. But one of the questions that was raised certainly during the very early discussions with Microsoft around this was, okay, how do I migrate from directly assigned licenses to inherited group-based licensing? And certainly if we look at Don here, so Don has direct licenses and he has an inherited Office 365 E3. If we switch back to the Office Admin Center and have a look at Don, we click into his product licenses. We can actually see he's got two sets of licenses applied. And there we go. So we can see he's got E3 turned on. So ideally what we want to do now is actually turn off Don's license for his E3. So we know that in the portal he's showing as direct and inherited. And if we come back here and we say save, and it says products removed, but yet when we come back to Don, he still has an enterprise E3 license. If we now go back to the Office 365, sorry, the Azure portal, and click on licensed users, we just refresh, let's blip into groups and back to licensed users, and we see that Don's now changed to just inherited Office 365 full E3. So that's excellent. Again, that's done what we wanted. So I guess one of the things to say here is we need to be really, really careful and fully understand that everyone is inheriting the correct licenses before we remove the directly applied licenses. But again, with some care and planning, it's not going to be too difficult to move away from a directly assigned license model to inherited groups. Anyway, I hope you found that useful. If there's any questions or any information you need, and just ignore my cat meowing in the background, grab me on Twitter. It's at Cimares, Cimares, and I'll be happy to give you more information. Thanks very much for listening.